ask you where you
Cool,
got that.
Roger.
All right, cool. Well, hello and welcome, everyone. I am Anders. I am your host and editor. Welcome to the Survivor Maryland Winner Take All, Episode 5, Live After Show. Wow, the title gets longer every time. Uh, Thank you all so much for joining us. It's going to be a wonderful show. Joining me, as always, my princess of pop punk, Erin. How are you?
I'm great. Did not know I was the princess of pop punk, but I'll take it.
Okay,
This
sorry, the prince of pop punk.
queen, but okay. Um, but no, yeah, I'm super excited to dig into this episode. Probably one of my favorites so far this season. I have 2 full pages of notes. So most I've taken all season so far, and this was the first episode I texted Anders after watching, just because I couldn't wait to talk about it. So very excited to get into it.
Joining us as well for the first time, finally, a Maryland person on this podcast. Can you believe it? It only took 5 episodes.
Boo.
Uh,
The
Ty,
person,
please introduce yourself.
not the person wearing the Maryland sweatshirt.
We'll get to him.
Yeah. My name's Ty. I'm a senior at University of Maryland. I am a co-host for the past and current season of Survivor Maryland. And yeah, thanks for inviting me on, Anders. Can't wait to talk about this episode. Finally got to see Sababa at Tribal. And yeah, we're excited to talk about the episode.
Took long enough. Madeline, introduce yourself to us.
Sure. My name is Madeline. I am the other co-host at Maryland. Again for last season, this season, and then the next couple of seasons. Don't know when I'm graduating, so that'll be fun to figure out. But I've been watching Survivor Maryland since I was in high school, so it's kind of really cool to be here now, like hosting it and being on one of these after shows. So I'm super excited to be here. I really love this episode, as well as the season so far. So I'm super excited about it.
Yeah, what's really cool about I've been watching this since high school is if you were to look at the last time I hosted these, that's when Madeline was in high school. So really shows you time's not as long as you think. And then finally, our real Maryland representative, Roger. Tell us a little about yourself.
Despite my shirt, I'm not from Maryland. I am from the University of Michigan. I am the current challenge exec at the university or at Survivor Michigan. And maybe I play in an upcoming season. I guess we'll see.
Oh man, I can't wait to hate you on Michigan. All right.
That'll be fun.
Well, enough talking about Michigan, all right? They already had their season. Let's talk about episode 5. For the first time in what feels like forever, we're finally not focusing on Majesta. It's time for Sababa to take control. And man, they really just went crazy. What's everyone's first impressions of what happened? Like, what as soon as the episode ended, what were your thoughts? How are you feeling about it?
Woo. Was very happy with the result at the end of the day, honestly. There's so many intricate funny moments that I'm sure we're going to get into later, but I love how just different Sababa is than Majesta. It's not as clear cut. It's very so many overlapping relationships, and I think it just came down to the person that had the fewest overlapping relationships, honestly. And I think that it was not only a shot at Winnick, obviously, but also a shot at JS, which I think is really fun. So yeah, could not have been happier about the result, honestly. And yeah, I was just relieved at the end of it that that's what actually happened.
I think it's a perfect example of what happens when a tribe doesn't go to tribal council for however many weeks in a row, and you see them start to kind of implode. Where, I think had it been, a week prior, it probably wouldn't. Maybe it would have been at that point the same end result, but it probably wouldn't have been as crazy of a path. But every single week, if you go backwards, you see it more likely being someone else. You see it potentially being Doug, potentially being a different returner, and then as they start going kind of stir crazy in their same tribes, for so long, they keep winning, so they don't have to go to tribal council. You see this end result that I feel like was not unpredictable, but the path there was just kind of a crazy path that I think the way that they had been just kind of going crazy in their own little winning bubble for 3 weeks in a row had kind of started to get to them.
Yeah, it was the first time we actually had to see Sababa put in work. their first vote was not really a vote, and they actually had to like form alliances and like show their true cards. Like I feel like this definitely drew the line in the sand for their tribal. And it was so interesting to see all the different dynamics. Like Erin was saying, like Majesta, it's obviously returners versus newbies. This one, there was like girl guy alliance, newbies return alliance, and just like everything in between. So super interesting to see Winnick end up going home on a not unanimous decision, which I always like seeing because then it shows people that they're on the bottom and gets people's butts in gear and gets them to start talking to more people.
And as they said, they didn't have a Sabrina this time.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when the episode like start, even like at the point like we were at the challenge, I was kind of like, okay, like I can see like what's been developing so far, but I still kind of thought it was gonna be a more simple vote, and it really just kind of imploded on itself, especially just like with all the kind of alliances that are like between the returnees and the new people, and I think it really made for like a crazy tribal.
I think, well, we'll get into Sababa and the craziness of it all, because even just editing it, I was like, what is happening? Like, why is this such a difficult vote? Let's talk a little bit about Sababa. Now, we get some very good instructions about aftercare by JS. You know, after you screw someone, it's really important that you have a time to talk with them and decompress. Yeah, how do we feel about JS immediately after just clapping and getting rid of Faith, going like, bye-bye, and then going, guys, I'm not against you. Like, I think we can still work together.
The worst part of that is that Mike fucking bought it. Like, Eggroll was sitting there. He had a confessional. He's like, I'm not buying any of JS's bullshit. Like, he was like, okay, don't say that in the chat, Eric. I was going to defend you. I was about to defend you because in your confessionals, Eric, you were like, you talked with Quad. You were like, I don't think that like JS, whatever he's putting down is bullshit. But Mike, again, his closest ally is saying in his face, like, hey, this is what's happening, Mike. And Mike's like, I don't think so. I don't think that's happening. But like the saddest thing is, outside of like, had JS not done that after like the votes, had he not like clapped or whatever, that is the right thing to do. To go over to the people you just blindsided, say like, listen, I know what I just did. This is why I did it. Like, let's still be together. That is exactly what Jack and Miranda should have done as people who could have had a relationship and like who Mike and Eggroll were anticipating to have a relationship with. But JS being the one to do it, I agree with Eric, like makes it look worse and makes it look less believable. But, you know, Mike will eat it up, so I guess he can get away with it.
It's funny because Mike and JS have a relationship outside the game. So it's interesting to balance both of those. I feel like pre-existing relationships, it's always a tricky situation. But I found it funny that JS was the one like leading the damage control, considering, yes, he got votes and he was the one that did the blind side, but really, like I think Mike and Eggroll should been doing more damage control because they were the ones that just voted for Jay. Like Eric and Eggroll didn't even see their name.
Yeah,
Eggroll and Mike. Eggroll and Mike.
That's a good point.
I just said Eggroll twice.
That's what I was thinking. It's like theoretically, he is the one who had to do. Had he played it the way that I think most people believe that he should have played it, which is, you know, like maybe not clapping in Faith's face,
Maybe.
when just maybe like once when she got eliminated. I think had he just, you know, been a little more chill about the overall vote, he theoretically out of everyone has to do the least amount of damage control. He was the one who got votes. He was the one who basically should have been going home, and you know he pulled off this blind side. But if you just go like, yeah, like I was getting votes, like I had to do what I had to do to stay in the game, that's for most people enough, especially pre-merge. Like you can still come back from that. I think the way that he behaved at tribal council made it so that he had to do damage control, and the signs of damage control, as we saw in the situation, just makes it worse, especially with someone like Eggroll, and then especially even with Mike who bought it. I don't know how long that's going to last. Like I don't know how long that relationship with Mike is truly going to carry him through the game.
I think what's so hard about it is right. JS doesn't need to be the one doing damage control. Like, he was the one getting votes. Like, what argument does he need to make for why he did it? But he even said this episode, he probably should lay down and die a little. Like, he is the one they were targeting. he's the one being the loudest at challenges. And he won't. He literally refuses to do it, and we see him immediately go to the other tribe to start spinning this narrative. I mean, we see him go to Eric Winnick and start pitching, hey, you guys need to get rid of a returner. They're all working together. And to be clear, in case anyone was wondering, the 8 returners working together is not a real thing. There's never been
8
footage of it.
returners.
The 8 returners. They
The
never
8
have.
returners.
That has never
6
been.
of them, by the way.
2 of them already gone.
That was another thing I will give to JS. Like, I give him his funny thing he said last episode. This episode, when he said Eric Winnick, one of the dumbest players in the game, I was like, absolutely.
So
I
did
was like,
An- so
okay,
did
you
Andrew.
ate that. Oh my god, no, yeah, we'll talk in a minute.
Oh.
Oh my god, I had to pause the episode. I was laughing so hard when Winnick was talking about Andrew. We'll talk about that when we're talking about Sababa. But oh my god,
Ty
yeah.
and I. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
no, you're good. I'm done. I was just saying, like, that was another. I was like, I'll give JS that. He definitely ate that, saying Eric Winnick, one of the dumbest players in the game.
And you know what?
And
Immediately
he gets himself voted out.
Yeah.
Well, you know, he pushes this idea, and immediately Eric Winnick is saying, yeah,
Exactly.
you're right. And actually, we got to do something about this. And
Oh, sorry.
no, go ahead.
I was just saying that like Ty and I have been talking when last episode aired that like had this happened, in season 22 of Survivor Maryland, we would have seen JS go home quite literally immediately. Like just I don't think people at this point like would have cared as much about like, like the shields, the threat perception that obviously JS has. Like we just would have seen him get booted immediately. I think there would have been a point where they might have literally thrown a challenge just to get him out after that behavior. So I think it's crazy that like he is still in this game, and I think someone said that it's a perception problem. I don't even know if it's a full perception problem. I think he understands, at least to an extent, the way that he's being perceived, and I think he's viewing it as like, this is helping me. Like this is, even though it's making people dislike me right now, I think it can work in the long run. And I think he's right about that. I do think it's going to protect him for a while because people aren't going to want to target him because he is such a big threat. He's someone they could take out at any time. He's awful.
The one thing I will
Like,
say, sorry, Madeline. The
No,
one thing
good.
I'll say about JS is that, like, yes, he is coming off super abrasive, but I will say, like, it is working very well to hide his alliance with, like, Miranda. Like, that is super impressive, and to, like, hide an alliance, not to just anyone, but 2 returning players. Like, to me, that, like, yes, it is definitely coming off, like, I don't know if it's going to really work long term in terms of, like, getting votes at the end, but at least it worked for this vote, and I do think that, like, I think the people who benefits the most are people like Miranda and Jack, who are like just able to like sit in this alliance, let this person like do all their dirty work for them, and then he's gonna get voted out eventually. So I think like I see where JS is coming from, and like because Miranda and Jack can just sit back, they're not going to want to get rid of JS. So JS can really do whatever the fuck he wants, which I think is why it works in this situation. So I do give JS some props.
Here's the thing. He is playing well for his alliance of 4 people. Outside
Right.
of that, he is not
5.
protected.
You
Yes,
cannot
Sam.
forget
Sorry.
Sam.
Wow.
Sorry.
Get on the bottom row. Get on the bottom row.
Ah, yeah, send me down. Send me down. No.
Yeah.
But like, he is playing that game well for within his own alliance. But even now, when he's trying to like step over onto the other tribe and getting shut down, and immediately what he wanted on the other tribe didn't happen, at any point, at any swap, which he gets to control, I guess, or merge situation, like they're targeting him first. And yeah, that's great for the Jacks and the Mirandas of the world, but that's terrible for him. Like that's not what's getting him further. That's what's getting him further right now, because his own alliance, who's in control, isn't going to take him out. But as soon as his alliance is not in control, then he's going.
I
Yeah,
think
no, it's great short term, terrible long term.
Yeah, yeah.
I think the issue is that you see him as you see him how generally the public sees him, which is like whenever he's in these big public settings, he's loud, he's abrasive, he's going to fight. But there's a reason that he got this alliance in the first place, and that Winnick believes him. And it's as Katie says, when he talks to you, it feels like he's giving you the inside scoop. I feel like there's 2 versions of JS that we're seeing. We're seeing the big public persona, the one that's going to pop a balloon tonight. I love that little line from Fish, making fun of it. But You also see the one-on-one JS that is able to sell what he wants in a way that isn't abrasive, that is like he's telling you so much. It takes a good player to know that he's lying to you, but he's not just a loud, chaotic player. He's a player with a purpose. So I think as much as you want to say, if I was playing with JS, I'd get rid of him. If he
I
was
would.
this way constantly, no one would want to work with him. There's a reason he got McQuad in the first place.
I mean, he is the type of person who, like, I think Aaron said it too, like, I would want to work with him, like, no matter how
I would not
he
say that.
Oh, sorry, I
I would never.
Erin famously said she loves JS and wants to work with him so bad.
Sorry, I misunderstood something you said earlier. I think that, like, he's someone who I probably would want to work with for that reason. He's perfect for a player like Jack or Miranda who can sit down and just watch him, implode, and they're gonna be safe no matter what. He's always gonna be someone who they wanna take out.
Eric.
I'd say Jay's super valuable. Like, he has the newbies. He was talking to the returners. We'll see if that bridge reignites with Mike and Eggerl. I kind of doubt it. And he started talking to the other tribe. Like, he's got a lot of connections. He has a lot of information. And I think that's a good point. Like, when you're one-on-one or in small group settings, like, if you're like loud and obnoxious, that could like get you voted out. But if you're loud and obnoxious in the public setting, like, yo, this guy's like annoying. But like when you're one-on-one with him, he's like giving you all this strategy and like sharing information and all that. Like, I think that's a pretty valuable asset.
I feel like it's important context that Jay is Ty's brother. I feel like that's
Oh,
what
you
it
didn't
has.
have to say that. Yeah, JS is my brother. He goes by Jay now, by the way. No more S.
Well, he's not. Well,
just a
Jay
college
isn't on the
thing.
show. JS is. Sorry,
He made it
Ty
very
He's
S.
on the show. I have to revert to my middle school self and call him JS again.
Yes.
So, oh wow.
Whoa.
Yeah, hey,
Crazy.
don't worry. JS is in the audience, so if you want to say something really mean about him, Aaron, he's here to listen.
Oh, and I will.
Okay, so we see that from the rest of Sababa, or from the rest of Majesta, it's very clear, like, the lines have been set. It's very funny to me, like, Majesta has this whole chaotic energy about them, but their lines and the alliances are pretty clear-cut, straightforward. Like, when they go to Tribal, it's like, will they go with the returners this time, or will they just end up having someone quit? Let's talk a little bit about Sababa, and I think we need to start with the big moment everyone's loving, which is after JS goes to Winnick and says, like, you got to do this. Winnick's like, hell yeah. He goes to Katie and goes, well, my alliance betrayed me. And Katie immediately goes, fuck off. You're full of shit. So, Sababa. Some of them don't believe JS, and one of them does. What are our takes on Sababa? We haven't gotten a moment with them really since the first episode, and I feel like we got a lot of moments this episode with them.
So many juicy moments.
I honestly forgot who some people were on Sababa. I was like, I haven't seen this character in like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Like, who is this guy?
In your defense, Michaela had one confessional before this episode. So
For me, it was Winnick, and as soon as I saw him have 4 confessionals episode, I was like, oh, he's gone. you always get your screen time right before you get voted off.
No, I was so ready for like the Winnick
Winnick take
open
all,
coming.
baby.
I was exactly. I was ready for that, and then
Come on.
like it just didn't happen, and I was like really sad.
So the moment where I had to pause the episode was when Winnick went to Andrew to like talk about flipping on the returnees, and he said, "Who's a weak player that will trust me, a strong player, to bring further in the game?" Andrew, I had to pause the episode because I was laughing so hard. I was like, not only do you perceive yourself as a strong player, which is hilarious, but you perceive Andrew as a weak player, which is equally hilarious. Like, clearly.
How did my name become Ty S? Who changed my name to Ty S?
What do you mean? That is your name. Madeline, go on.
That's not my right middle name. What the heck?
I was just saying that Winnick just like consistently repeating that he's a strong player and being like, oh, like
Yeah.
I know that I'm, and then going to other people and being like, I know that I'm like just crazy behavior. Like,
His like even him talking like when he was like in those meetings with all the newbies, like he was so clearly talking as if he was the leader. Like he's he literally could have said like, so I'm sure you're wondering why I've brought you all here today. Here's what we're going to do. Let me lay out our game plan moving forward. I, as the leader, Eric Winnick, who is going to be your
He-
savior and bring all of you weak players forward in the game with me.
well, and
He
he
was
was like,
at-
I
he was at
am
least aware of
extremely
that.
confident that
Oh
I'm
yeah.
making merge. Like I know, like
I-
when I get to merge, and it's just like that is so crazy to be
I
coming
know.
across like that. Like I understand, like perception in the game is so flawed from like real life perception. Like I understand you very rarely have like an accurate perception of how you're being viewed, but like even like no matter who you are, to be that confident you're getting to merge is an immediate death sentence.
Straight
Yeah, I
up,
mean,
I
swap.
think he's literally basing his like strong player versus weak player analysis based on like body type. He's like, "Do you look like you can bench more than me? Strong player."
Look, you don't get it. Winnick strong, Andrew weak. Winnick going to merge. Other newbie maybe. Winnick
Not
is
after they just voted him out, which according to him, huge mistake.
well because they had other alliances, and if they
Yeah.
want to mess around with other alliances,
He is truly an icon. You can give him a lot, but he is truly an icon. Yeah, I did write that quote down, Madeline. I see myself as a strong player, and I see myself going to merge, which was the direct quote.
As soon as he said that, I'm like, oh, he's going home. Like
He's
he is
gone.
getting
He's
voted
gone.
out tonight.
Yeah, and he's like saying all this shit about Andrew being a weak player while Andrew was sitting there lying right in his face, saying like, "No, I haven't talked with Katie recently. Like, yeah, I'd be totally down to like vote her out or whatever." And then Andrew in his confessional is like, "Yeah, Winnick is not that smart. He is not a threat." And I was like, "King, that's my winner."
It was within a couple
like,
minutes.
oh, you can go die.
It was within a couple minutes of each other. Like Winnick and JS, or Andrew and JS both saying, "Yeah, this Winnick guy's like not too great. Like, not a great player." And I was like, "Oh, I feel bad for the guy." That's it, Roger.
I was like so in awe with Winnick that all I wrote in my notes was Winnick in all caps, and then I just like,
And that's real.
and because you guys were talking, I was like, dang, I didn't write any of these quotes down just because I was so like, I don't know, like I thought like I feel like I'm so used to this type of player that just like is very simplistic strategy wise, that to the point where I was just like, I was so used to it that I was just like, this is like, it's funny, but it's just like, I wasn't that shocked by it.
I think what's so funny is Winnick has this one point of view, which is we've got to get out a returner. And unlike Majesta, which has McCloud be like, it's us four and Sam, and we've got to take our returner to weaken their numbers, like it has to be this way. They're just going off the premise of we've got to get out any returner, which then goes into the issue of, okay, well, you all have individual preferences. How do you sort out who to pick? Because we see the four preferences. All right, it's Morgan, Katie, Doug, and Dylan, and no one of them is good for everyone. But before we talk about why that is, let's go scene by scene. So Doug, after last episode, revealing that he has the legacy advantage, these Sababa people are obsessed with showing their game changers. Every
Dylan
episode.
did it this episode too.
I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I
I
like
mean,
when
I feel like
advances
it's
are secret.
difficult
That's what
most-
they're supposed to be.
I feel like given that they're hidden in the challenges, at least for the most part, it is difficult to like not see at least one or two people grab it. And once,
Everybody
like,
saw
one
Egg Roll
person
grab
sees
his,
it-
and he was like, "I'm
Yeah.
not
He
sharing
didn't give
this
a
with you
fuck.
bitches."
He didn't give a fuck.
I was
That's-
obsessed with that
that's
moment.
true. But like, I feel like
That
I
was
get
incredible.
why they're being shared so often, especially for like. I also get it though, because a lot of them have been like challenge advantages for the tribe, challenge disadvantages for the tribe, and I think because the earlier ones were like that, I think people are assuming they're of that nature, so they're less worried to grab them in front of people, which leads to situations like Doug grabbing a legacy and sharing to everyone.
But they had that happen last week, literally the week prior, and Dylan
Yeah.
does the same thing. Had that been something more individual, it's like, Dylan, you're worried about going home. Why are you showing everyone?
in Dylan's defense, I do like he's got an idol. So at that point, I'm like, if you want to share shit with the tribe, go ahead and share shit with the tribe because you've already got something in your back pocket that's going to protect you anyway. So like all that's doing is keeping him with a good face in the tribe. So I was like, I wasn't super mad at that, but it still is not ideal. And
Here's Eric talking about why he did. Here's Eric saying he didn't
Right.
have to share it because what were
No,
they going to
exactly.
do? Not
I'm-
trust him more?
Eric, I'm with you, babe. I loved that
Mhm.
move. I wanted to talk about that. Like, Egg Girl just fucking sliding in, like seeing Jack going towards that game changer and just sliding in and sniping it. That was incredible to me. I was like, absolutely.
I wish Jack got it though. I love Jack. She's so
love
awesome.
You wish Jack got the mutiny to do what with it?
Yeah, for
I-
what?
I
For
just
the
want her to
fucking
have more-
for
I just want her
McQuad?
to have
They
more
don't need
screen-
anything else.
We need her to have more screen time. We all love
I
Jack.
love Jack. I don't. She as when Jack leaves McQuad, then I'll be able to root for her more.
Also, what do you mean more screen time? She
Dang.
got plenty of screen time for this. She talked about how her parents were wrong about her. She can eat bugs.
She said, "Screw you, mom and dad."
That was funny. That was funny.
Or what did she
I
say? I
love,
wrote
I
the
love
quote
how
down.
in every confessional she's wearing an infinity scarf. It's my
Yeah,
favorite
Oh, yeah.
thing.
She
It's
said, "Take
so,
that, mom and dad."
It's so of the time. It's my favorite thing about Jack.
Every single infinity scarf. There's not a moment Jack is not wearing one. I think
Solid.
Naomi posted in the live chat, what's the most 2016 piece of clothing people are wearing? And it's that. That's my answer, is Jack wearing an infinity scarf.
Yes.
I still think
Uh,
I have my box of infinity scarves that I used to wear every day to school, and I feel like Jack.
Me too. Okay, so Doug has this game changer, the legacy advantage, and he's like, everyone knows I have this. I'm already being targeted. I'm going to use this to potentially gain an ally. He goes to Jess, who refused it last time, and he's like, hey Jess, hey girlie, what if you didn't get rid of me and I give you the legacy? And
Yeah.
she takes it. She says yes.
I think that was a great move. And the funniest part to me was Jess being like, "But let's not tell anybody." Like she was like, "Yeah, I'll take this advantage, but we'll still let everybody think that you have it."
Yeah, no, it was great on
That's
Jess's
for
part.
Doug.
I think Doug. I was so confused with what Doug was trying. I get like he doesn't want to have it, but I feel like if you do give it to someone, it has to be like public. And he should have said like, "Hey, I will give this to you," under the condition that people know, which I don't think she would accept. So I understand why he
Yeah,
maybe
and
had
I
to
mean,
do
it
like
ended
this.
up like that anyway because he told all the returnees, she told the Girls
Right.
Alliance.
So
it was
like, I think,
and now
I think
Winnick
it
is gone.
worked out.
So
I just don't know if that was Doug's intention, but like it worked out. So I'll give you props.
It
It was-
definitely worked out. In the moment, I was like, you can't just let Jess take it and she gets like no flame for it. Like that'd be crazy. But he's gonna find 2 idols later in the season anyway. Like he's just going to. So he
We
doesn't
can
need the
hope.
legacy.
Yeah,
We
it's
can hope.
fine.
He
It
doesn't
was
need the
just
legacy.
crazy that Jess was like, I'm not going to tell anyone about this, which is a great move. And then she goes around and tells 4 people about it. Like, it eventually becomes public so quickly. It's like for a legacy advantage. Like, obviously, they were going to find out anyway. And I think it's better to, like, be upfront about it early. But, like, if you're going to tell people about it, I would just personally just not accept it. Like, if I thought that everyone's going to find out about it at some point, I just would be like, no thanks. Like, I don't want this advantage.
I mean, I
If a
think you guys
returner's coming to you, like if
Oh,
a
sorry, go
returner's
ahead,
coming
Ty.
to you, if a returner's coming to you, you're like, oh, you played
Sorry, go
the
ahead,
game
Ty.
before, like you know what to do.
No, I'm fucking with you.
Um,
yeah.
yeah,
I
I think
think
the different. Oh,
Doug's trade of it was not so much, oh, I don't have the legacy advantage anymore. It was, I'm giving this to you, you protect me. And the people finding out about it would be a good thing too, but it was not the intention. So it's like, if Jess is saying just don't tell anyone, it's like, okay, and you just don't vote for me. We're good. And then she does eventually tell, but yeah, it is one of those situations, you're right, where it's like, you don't want everyone to know you have the legacy because that's only hurting you. But also, like, that's not what the trade was for, really.
Yeah.
and I think it's also different because, like, when Doug had it, he already was catching heat. Like, his name was already out there, and this was just an additional, like, reason to vote out Doug. Whereas Jess having it is less, and, like, people knowing about it is less drastic and, like, less damaging because her name's not really out there. People want to work with Jess, so they're just like, hell yeah, Jess, you have a legacy advantage, instead of being like, oh no, Doug has a
You go,
legacy
queen.
advantage. Exactly.
The more I think about it, like the more I want to give props to Doug for this. Like, especially if his intention is like get Jess to like protect him, it clearly worked because at least at some point, because Jess was like, "Hey, I have the legacy advantage now. We can use this to have Doug on our side." So like, I definitely see where Doug is coming from, and I think the only other way out of it really is like you find it and or like when you find and share it to everyone, you just like you rip it up. That's literally the only other thing you can do.
You destroy it?
If you're like if you're like, hey, like every single person is gonna like target me because of this, you rip it up. I see no reason why not to.
Well,
if the
already
host lets you,
baffled.
if the host lets you, just rip it up.
I'd be like,
You don't ask
what
the
a
host.
waste.
Why would you do that?
Why would you? I would not. I don't agree with
wouldn't
that take at
destroy
all.
an advantage. I would do
No.
what Doug did. I'd give it to someone else.
Yeah.
No,
Why
I
destroy it?
I wasn't saying I would do. I was just saying that this is like the only other option, like besides giving it away.
Is ripping it up.
Yeah, like what? Like whatever.
You would have to do
get-
that in front of everybody, otherwise they'd be like, you did not destroy that advantage.
Well, yeah,
like,
no,
now you're
obviously,
just being
no
a
one would
sketchy
believe
little
you. No one would
bitch.
That's what I was
believe you.
saying.
Also, I'd be like, don't rip it up. Why would you? What's the?
Yeah.
I don't even know if I'd count that as like it doesn't exist anymore. I'd be like, okay, I'll print it again. Like, oh, okay. Don't worry. Eric's coming to your defense here.
Yeah, thank you, Eric. Eric gets it.
Okay, sure. So, let's talk also about the Girls Alliance. Girls Priority Episode 1. It worked. They got a woman out. Now it's a Girls
My
Alliance.
kind of girl's priority.
It's a Girls Alliance. We have Jess, we have Katie, we have Morgan, and who's this stranger? She suddenly appeared in the show, but it's Michaela? Okay.
Back to back episodes.
Michaela had such a good episode, actually, though. She really did. Like, we actually got to like get in Michaela's head, hear some of her thought process, and like, we'll talk about this at the end. I think she made a good choice with her vote, and like, I think that it keeps her good with pretty much everybody. So I think this was a great Michaela episode. So true, Eric.
Eric loves the girls. Those working out.
I love when a girls alliance actually happens, because a girls alliance is what every man who plays College Survivor is scared of. So I love it when it actually like becomes a thing and they actually do shit with it. Especially like these girls, especially like with all of the conversation around Katie on in the past, couple episodes where like she's like catching heat for, I don't want to say no reason, because she's such a scary player that like I feel like every time someone talks about her being a scary player, it's like warranted. But like I just love when women, decide to work together, and especially after losing a woman like early on, I like it when the returners are now getting in on it. I like that there's now finally like an overlap between returners and newbies on this tribe. I think that like is huge. And I think like the women who are involved, like I love Morgan, I love Katie on. And then, Michaela, who was, the standout star of this episode, and then Jess, who I just like have always loved. I think it was really cool to see the four of them get together, because I think they all have such great things to say. And even though they all don't necessarily have like the same like best case scenario, I think that allows for better conversations and a more productive alliance.
And not only, yeah, what I really loved too is not only is the Girls Alliance like working and like actually going well, but the guys know about it and don't want to shut it down. Like Andrew's like, hell yeah, I want to work with the Girls Alliance. Doug's like, hell yeah, I want to work with the Girls Alliance. So it's like, yeah, it's fantastic. I agree. I think it's going great.
I think what makes the Girls Alliance work so well is that it's two returnees and two newbies. Like no one really feels outnumbered there, and like they have to work together. Like they're kind of forced to, because like 2-on-2 is not going to work out. Like someone's gonna like that's rocks, or like just something bad's going to happen. But when you come as 4 in an alliance of now it's 8, they're half the majority. They just need one of the Andrews or Doug. Andrew or Doug or Dylan to hop on
one of
their
the
side
macho
and
guys.
Yeah, the super macho guys. And Andrew's
the ones that Winnick is
I like
really afraid of.
One of the strong players.
Yeah.
Strong, manly Winnick.
It's also very funny because this Girls Alliance basically was the locus of control in this tribe. Like everything stems from these 4 girls want to work together.
Mhm.
Okay. Katie says, let's bring in Andrew. Jess says, let's bring in Doug. Great. We have 3 possible targets. Fish, Winnick, Dylan. And then
Which
it
is
goes.
also great because, like, with Katie bringing in Andrew and Jess bringing in Doug, because that is like still blurring the lines between newbie and like returnee over on Sababa, which is fantastic. Because
It was
Katie's like,
awesome.
oh, I'll bring in this newbie that I'm really close with, and Jess is like, I'll bring in this returnee that I'm really close with, and so this tribe is so standing against that like dumbass Majesta mindset of returnees versus newbies, and I love that for them.
I like
Agree.
both mindsets. Both takes on no, like it's 2 different ways to attack a newbies versus returner season. Like you can be very newbies versus returners, or just like have it work together. And I think it's interesting to see the 2 very different sides of that in the same season.
Yeah, one version gets rid of returners and one version doesn't. I agree. Yeah, we see
And
this
it
girls'
all
alliance form.
happens at merge. We'll see.
Who knows?
Is there a merge?
And that's one of the game changers too.
Yeah,
Or
they actually never play the merge game changer.
it actually just stays on these 2 tribes forever. We can actually talk about the mutiny game changer actually real quick before we go into the whole vote of Sababa. So Eric and Mike, terrible position. I mean, they're dead. No matter, like, JS is saying, oh, next time we'll work together. I mean, they're both like, no. They get a mutiny
Well,
game changer.
both is a strong word.
Okay. Eric vocally says, Mike's not like, let's stay on the tribe. Mike's aware. Mike's just also like, whatever.
I wrote in my note, Mike is pissed. He probably said it himself too.
Wait, so I'm confused on how the mutiny works. So is it just like you play it and then like anybody can mutiny, or do you have to like
So the way the mutiny works is basically you play it. For 10 seconds, anyone can switch tribes. So I count down, they can step forward. Anyone can. Once you step forward, you can't step back though. So it's like you make you just, if you want to leave, you leave. There's no positive or negative to leaving. You just go to one tribe or the other. There are a couple like edge cases of what if everyone steps forward, or like what if there's only 2 people or 1 person on the tribe. But I guess that would have to happen for us for us to worry about it.
True.
My next question is like, I guess I'm also a little confused on how the swap game changer works. So you can just play that and like the swap happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
You pick
So
the
then, like,
captains for the schoolyard pick.
What if
right?
What if they
Yeah,
both?
true,
What if
true.
they both happen? What if they both happen?
Yeah,
So-
that's what, because I'm saying like what I'm predicting would happen is like mutiny, and then like Eric and Mike both mutiny, and then Miranda's gonna be like, well, this is fucking stupid, and then just initiate the swap.
So you can only play. So with the swaps, you play one swap. All swap game changers are dead. Mutiny is the same way you play a mutiny. Any other mutiny game changer is dead. But the 2 do not cancel each other out. They just can't be played at the same challenge. So it's who gets there first at that point. Like,
So they can
if
mutiny for one and then swap at the next or something.
Yes, but you can't do it at the same. So then it is like you have to race. It's a race of when I start asking if you would like to play game changer. Whoever puts it up first, that's what it counts. So like, maybe we'll see some of that strategy come out because Miranda has her swap, Eric has a mutiny, but only Eric and Mike know about their mutiny. Of course, everyone on Sababa knows about the other. So
that's what makes me a little nervous as to like, because I feel like that race wouldn't necessarily happen, and like we even saw McQuad in this episode saying like if we win, then we don't necessarily want to use the swap now. Maybe next challenge if we lose, blah blah blah. But like they seem to be comfortable right now, and I talked about this last week. I don't think there's any reason for them to use the swap, and especially with like now the only thing like without knowing about the mutiny, they shouldn't use the swap. But the only way I think they could know about it, because Dylan showed his entire tribe, and some of his tribe is talking to the other tribe. So if Andrew, goes home and is hanging out with his roommate Tony, and he's like, so Dylan found this mutiny today, then they might be like, oh, interesting. Maybe that's what Egg Roll found too. So that's the only thing that makes me kind of nervous, but that would also be a lot of stretches possibly to get there.
I forget who was talking about it in the episode, but someone was like, yeah, like we can just mutiny to have all of the returners on one tribe. I'm like, if you lose a challenge, you're fucked. Like,
No.
especially if Majesta Returner, because you're down, like, because Faith went home. Like, you just be down, and that makes
You
no
know what
sense. Like,
returnee said that? It was Mike.
was it Mike?
Yeah.
He would just get voted out immediately. Him or Eggroll, but
I will say that the game changers are especially fun this season because of all of the cross tribal communication that's been happening. I think had there been less, they would have still had an impact on the season. Obviously, like I still think we would have seen them play out very well. But I think the fact that the tribes are talking, that there's so much cross tribal communication, especially for like a mostly newbie season, I feel like it's a little bit rare to see like people talking across tribes so frequently. I really like the way that it's going to impact, hopefully, the way that it's going to impact the way the game changers are played, and that people are going to be like, oh, like this got found on our tribe, like what you said, Aaron, like maybe this will get found, maybe this is what this person found on your tribe. Like I think that could lead to really interesting dynamics that we wouldn't have seen had there not been so much cross tribal communication between the tribes.
mostly majority by 2.
So Sababa loses because Majesta had they're cheap strippers. All right, they're willing to eat these bugs, and they do. This is Eric and Mike's ballpark. They both killed this last time they played, and Majesta sweeps for the first time in a while.
Big mouth boys.
What did you say?
I said big mouth boys.
Oh, okay. Weird. So in Meisner's memory, Majesta wins a challenge for once. Sababa's going.
Finally.
So what we have is initially Jess and Michaela don't want to target the girls. Jess doesn't want to target Doug. Andrew doesn't want to target Katie. Winnick doesn't want to target Dylan. Let's talk a little bit about that really quick.
So he's the other strong player, Anders.
Because, well, I hope this was communicated well enough. It was kind of confusing, but Winnick didn't want to target Dylan because Dylan has the idol, which they
is
both
their idol.
share.
Yeah,
and
their idol together.
He needs to keep it safe and secure so that he can use it later in the game when he makes merge.
Which he will, as we
Which
all
he
know.
will because he's a strong player. What are your opinions about Winnick sort of going, I don't want to vote out Dylan, and I can't tell anyone about the idol?
He should have told people about the idol. That's what he should have done. That's what he should have done.
I feel like if there was more like intention behind it, I'd be okay with it. Maybe if it was, I feel like if it wasn't Winnick, it'd be okay. But with it being Winnick, I'm just like, what are you doing?
I think it was the most Winnick thing that he could have done. I think.
Oh, I'm not saying it's not a Winnick thing. We're just saying like someone that like doesn't have a social game like at all.
No, exactly. But that's the thing is that nobody like expects him to be making these I feel like the way he presented himself in those meetings is exactly what people were anticipating. So if he came in there and was like eloquently explained like actual reasons to not vote for Dylan, people would be like what happened to this guy? You know? They'd be like, what's this guy on? Who got to him? So I feel like it was for the best for him to just be like, yeah, I don't really want to do Dylan. And then everybody would just be like, okay.
Just a deep sigh, Madeline? No other thoughts?
No, I'm just like, I think that it is just a ridiculous, like this whole situation is just absolutely ridiculous. Like that's just my take on it, is that what happened with the whole, like, I think it's so funny that he was just like, I don't want to vote Dylan, and everyone was like, sure. Like no one really like thought to
they
like
just agreed. That was
at
like
least
odd.
Huh?
I said that was odd. I think it's Winnick's missed.
Yeah, like
missed.
Except they didn't agree. Dylan was the other target. It was Dylan or Katie at that meeting because Fish is the only newbie who said, I will vote out any of them. I do not care.
Well, Fish was trying to push for Katie, though. Like, him and Winnick were both more pushing for Katie. And then I feel like Andrew and Michaela were just kind of sitting there like, well, we are not going to do that.
Yeah, we see this crazy deadlock between the group of 4 who are talking, and they're like, 2 people want Katie, 2 people want Dylan. And you see it happen, and then they just kind of leave. Like they don't really come to a conclusion at that point. They just kind of be like,
We'll figure it
Cool, I
out.
guess we're just gonna vote separately, which doesn't work in the situation when it's a group of 4. Like, you can't just, like
They were going to come back to it. They didn't. They weren't like, this is our votes. They were saying, all
Yeah.
right,
Well,
Which
We'll
is also
figure it out
so
later.
funny. Yeah, because like Jess is part of that too. So it's like she could have been there to be a tiebreaker. She just wasn't at the meeting. But
yeah,
nobody there was piping up of being like, I think this is what Jess might want, or like anything like that. They were just like,
They were just
Jess
letting.
isn't, I can't see her, so she doesn't exist right now.
right. It was just like I
letting
think that again, this is what happens when they have no practice going to tribal council, when the only tribal council they had was Sabrina, where it was a very easy unanimous vote. We see it come here where all of a sudden not everyone wants the same thing and they just don't know what to do with themselves. Like they can't be like, we'll figure it out. They're like, okay, we're having this conversation. We don't agree. We'll just come back to it, yeah, at some point. Like they don't leave with any sort of like plan of like who they're gonna talk to. They're just like, we'll figure this out later.
and then
It's a bunch of newbies working together.
it's a bunch of newbies with no direction.
They don't know
Working
what to do.
together.
They don't know what
Also,
to do.
the funniest part happens next after Katie's like, yeah, Dylan, you might be the target. Dylan's like, I've got to do damage control. He has a conversation with Michaela, and he's like, this conversation sucked. And Michaela's like, this is actually a pretty good conversation. And he pulls off, this is a Survivor Michigan ass move, which is to text the person you're talking about the wrong thing. And then, for that very thing you do, that should be the reason you go home, to be a reason it suddenly switches off of you, the fact that he texts her, why the fuck is she lying to me? Like, I do not trust her. And then goes, Doug sent it? And then Michaela goes,
Yeah.
I can't believe Doug sent that.
Yeah, the Survivor Michigan triggering that happened watching that definitely hit me hard. But yeah, I don't understand how he got out of that less with less of a target on his back. That's like actually
I don't know.
wild to me. And then it
With
caused
Michaela
and it was
protecting him.
right. And then it was so stupid too, because then it caused tension within the returnees. Because now Doug is like, "So you're throwing me under the bus? Like what? Like what the fuck?" So I don't know. So ridiculous.
Doug obviously stole Dylan's phone to write that text. Just
Clearly.
so obvious. Like,
Well, and then you see
Yep.
Katie flip out. She's like, "What the fuck just happened?" Like now Doug is being targeted for no reason. Like, why is Doug all of a sudden this? Now she's pissed at Dylan, and the way that we've seen it is like Katie has all of the power, pretty much this season, but like
Mhm.
especially right now in this tribe, like she is by far, in my opinion, and probably the best, like one of the best, if not the best position.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden now she's mad, and the fact that even she who has so much power is now mad at Dylan. Dylan still is completely safe, basically. Like that, just the whole situation is just absolutely insane to me.
Because she still needs him is the thing.
Yeah,
Is like he is still a valuable asset to her in the game, so she can be mad at him, but not like turn him into a target or like turn him into. Because like if Katie breathes your name, you're probably A, getting votes, B, maybe going home. So I think that she can't afford to like throw somebody under the bus just because she's a little mad at them.
right.
I mean, Dylan's missed. Michaela goes from wanting him out to going, I actually trust Dylan so much after their very, very good conversation.
Yeah, great conversation.
And then text. It's pretty incredible. But yes, I think what's also funny is on the same way we're talking about like Majesta, like the newbies are so much more coordinated and like all together on this. So are the returnees. Like the returners all vote together, like they are all of one mind. On Sababa, I mean, Dylan said from the second episode, like if he's the only one that makes merge, he's fine with that. And here he is proving, hey, I'm okay. Like if I can survive and Doug goes home, like that's bad for Doug, but I didn't get the votes.
Yep.
Which I actually like. I think it adds a lot more fun to the season. Like I think that the newbie versus returner thing is just boring. Like I think them like being so good and so willing to kind of turn. I think the returners being so willing to turn on each other without it being like a bloodbath almost. I think is good. Like it shows a lot of flexibility in their games because it's so easy to work with. the people the people who how you've been with, some of them you've played before, so not some of them, that you have like similar targets on your back. But I think being willing to turn on them without it being like I'm going against a returner this round. I think it shows the flexibility in a lot of their games, and I think it really speaks to them as players and them as returners. Whereas like on the other tribe, we very much see this returner versus newbie battle.
Yeah,
It's easy.
something I texted Anders last night after I watched the episode was I feel like both tribes kind of are reflections of their main characters. So
Mhm.
like it's very much JS is Majesta, Katie is Sababa, in the sense of like Majesta is pretty straightforward, like pretty, they say what they mean, like they do what they say, and it's like fairly like face value. And like, yeah, there are some undertones, there are some things happening that you're not necessarily seeing, but you're seeing most of it. And it's very much this dichotomy. It's very much hot and cold, and it's very much newbies returnees.
Yeah.
Whereas Sababa and Katie, very nuanced, very individual relationships driven, very like focusing on every connection, as opposed to like trying to build these groups. And you still have these groups, like, like Ty was saying earlier, like the newbies returnees, the girls and the guys, like different things like that, but they're much more
The bros
interwoven.
and Andrew.
Yeah, the bros and Andrew, exactly. Um, so yeah, so I just think it's much more intricate and much more interesting, and that's why I have much more notes on this episode and on Sababa, because I fucking love Sababa.
I mean, I texted this to Erin as well. It's like Majesta is on the outside so dramatic, so high energy. It seems like it's so chaotic, but the votes are much simpler. Like it's very clear why it's who the two targets are, why people are doing what they are. Sababa on the outside is calm, understood. Like it's very just sort of relaxed, but the inner workings of it are so complicated. You look at this vote, you go, okay, Winnick went home, sure, but how did we get to a 6-3 vote? Why are the people who voted for Winnick voting for Winnick? It's not easily understood. It is so much more complicated than just he's a returner, he's a newbie. It's like, no, he's a newbie, but he wanted Katie out, but he wanted Doug out, and it's like, okay, finally, thank you.
Insane and incorrect take. Insane
No,
and incorrect.
I'll be honest.
I'm a
No.
double Paris.
I'm a Majesta supporter. I like Majesta a lot. I
too.
don't dislike Sababa. I like Sababa, but like I like Majesta. I don't think it's like I don't know. I just like Majesta.
They
Sometimes
put
you go to a
JS and
movie-
Mike.
I like the
I think
structure.
Anders built that tribe and put JS and Mike over there and was like, Aaron's gonna fucking hate this tribe.
Yeah,
Before you
back
ever even
before
knew
I
you.
knew
He
you.
did that 2017.
Yeah.
Mastermind Anders.
Listen, sometimes you go to the movie and you just want to watch a big blockbuster with popcorn, and sometimes you want to sit for an art house film. All right, Majesta is Transformers, the Rise of the Beast or whatever, and Sababa is, I don't know, Maestro. Something you really have to sit down and digest.
Mhm.
I love Bradley
Yeah,
Cooper.
no, because I'm watching this episode. I was like, I can't even be on this podcast. I need to fucking watch the podcast so I understand what happened.
So confused when the votes came out. Like, I was like, wait, who voted for who? Like, this doesn't make any sense. And I wrote down who got voted out, but somehow Michaela got like lost in communication.
So
Like,
let's talk a little
No,
bit
I
about.
don't think she got lost.
I
think
don't either. I think she made a great move.
Well,
You think she
before
did
we
on
talk
purpose?
about Michaela winning, this episode,
So true.
I just want to go back to. Okay, so Michaela switches to now I don't want Dylan out, which Andrew is thrilled about. Going, okay, cool, back to step one. The four meet without Fish, because as we know, the newbies can never meet all together. It makes things too easy.
Yes.
And it's there that they go, all right, I guess we're doing Doug now. We have decided, Jess, your opinions don't matter, and we're doing Doug. And then the car conversation happens with Katie and Morgan being like, we don't want to do Doug or Dylan. So Fish calls Morgan and says, we're doing Doug. But if you want to vote Dylan, like, you can, which, I mean, gameplay. If you were in that situation, you're sitting on the other end of a phone call and someone says, we're voting this way, but if you want to vote this way in case of an idol, you're doing it, right?
I think it was a terrible
No.
pitch. I think that the thought process behind it, like if you would set it up like we want to split off a couple votes in case of an idol, like so if you want to vote Dylan, that sounds great. But yeah, her saying like, "Oh, I don't know," like and him being like, "I mean, if you want to vote Dylan," that's like it was just terrible delivery. It was just horrible delivery. Fine thought, terrible execution.
It was a great idea, especially if they knew he had an idol. But yeah, just being like, yeah, like y'all can vote. Like we don't really care what you do. Like
Yeah,
yeah,
really.
that means something
Yeah,
must be
that's
up.
literally
They figured it
it's
out. They
literally
figured it out.
saying it's literally saying like your vote does not matter. You can vote however, whatever. And like I guess like I think he just wasn't thinking when he said it. Like I'm sure if he like thought I mean I think he would regret it after, but maybe not. I have no idea.
I feel like he has to regret it now.
He definitely does because he's
I don't
he's
know.
fucking on the bottom. He's on the bottom of that tribe.
We'll see if he knows where he went wrong. I don't know. I guess we'll see. I don't know if he has that wherewithal to to think about that at this point.
So the vote happens. It's 6-3. The 4 returners, Jess and Andrew, vote out Winnick. The 3 are Winnick, Fish, and Michaela. Why is Michaela a winner?
Because Michaela knew who like all of the returnees plus Andrew and Jess were voting. She was in on that plan. She knew what was happening. She was debating who to write down at the end. And now by writing out Doug, knowing he wasn't going home, she's still in good with the other 2 newbies. She's still in good with Fish and with the other one.
Jess and Andrew?
Andrew.
Winnick's out.
Oh yeah, Winnick's out. So she's still good with Fish. So she still
Does
maintains
she
like
need to be good with Fish? I feel like she doesn't need to be good with him.
I think in the case of like
Why not?
you never know what's gonna happen. You never know if a
No,
swap
that's
or you never
true.
know if I'm like you don't know what's gonna happen. You don't know who you're gonna be left with after this. So I think maintaining your position with everybody is never a bad thing to do. And now she can get info from Fish, like she can know who he might be targeting next week and like if he gets anything. So I think it's great. Always good to have a person on the inside.
I feel like it'd be good if everyone like in her lines knew she was doing that beforehand, but I think the fact that like she didn't say, "Hey, I'm voting Doug," her lines is gonna go, "Who were these votes for Doug?" If they find out it's her, they're gonna have less trust in her because she didn't tell them who they were voting, and I think that could backfire.
I think if she does what JS did after last tribal, goes right up to these people who she just voted against and is like, "This is why I did what I did," then
Mhm.
she's in a fine spot.
Yeah, no, I think
I
it,
can't
I think
wait.
it depends on how she plays it.
Yeah,
afterwards.
and I think it's also
we
like
need to see
I
how
don't
that
know if
plays out.
I don't know if she had the opportunity to tell them beforehand because even sitting in the voting booth, she was like, "I don't really know what I'm gonna do right now," so I don't think she had the ability to.
It's crazy how last minute this vote came about. Like for Majesta, like they all planned it out, they strategized it. This one, like at least maybe it was ended this way. Like it seemed like it was going down to the wire of like who the heck are we voting for? And I'm really interested to see who Michaela pins it on, because everyone's gonna be like, oh, I voted Winnick, and it'll be interesting to see who Michaela's like. You didn't vote Winnick, and we'll see if people believe her or not.
I mean,
I don't think she should lie about it. It feels silly.
Dylan already called her a terrible liar. So I don't know if they're exactly. Despite Michaela's absolute undying devotion towards Dylan, I don't think anyone's particularly like Michaela is the most loyal person in the world.
Yeah.
And I also feel like after that conversation, then I feel like Dylan isn't gonna be too mad at her for voting Doug. He's gonna be like, "Yeah, I fucking threw Doug under the bus to her. That's fine that she voted for him." And like,
True.
I think that she
That
has
makes
outs
sense.
for it with a lot of people.
Yeah,
We
I
have this
agree.
great comment here that Doug is now the Dane, where he'll get votes at every tribal council but still survive. I mean,
Dane train, baby.
Doug comes from the best. Also, Winnick going, I did not respect how you played last season. Like, I do not want you here. I'm taking you out. Winnick take all. I mean, you gotta love someone being like, and you know what? Fuck you for what you did last season. You're going home.
Yeah, a little iconic, I fear.
Just a
And
little.
somehow, Doug stays around for one more round at least. but he'll probably be the target next time also.
Yeah, likely.
That would not surprise me.
I think there has to be a
Oh.
mutiny next
Well, I don't know.
episode.
Yeah, like Winnick said, if they don't see the logic in my argument, they're losing anyway. So probably the other newbies are going for not listening to Winnick.
Here we go. Eric solidarity. Oh yeah, I mean, congrats,
Listen,
Eric.
Yeah, Eric,
Congrats, Eric Eggroll. You are the final Eric of the season.
Yes.
Yeah.
Eric,
No,
I
see,
was
I
laughing,
forgot that-
but I do think he's iconic. I do think Winnick is very iconic.
I forgot that Winnick's first name was Eric. So when I saw Eric at Tribal, I was like, I was like, did I miss something? So then I was like, is there a third Eric that I didn't know, or sorry, a second Eric, but not Winnick, someone else? And I was
You're like, did they bring Meisner back?
I was.
My biggest pet peeve is when on the season, like Michaela or someone would be like Dylan, and they're referring to Fish, or Eric when they're talking about Winnick. It's like, we call them these things for a reason. Especially, they will say it several times. Like Dylan said this, which one? Because I know it. Because it could be either with Michaela.
True.
So, yeah, Eric
It's
is
funny
Eric
'cause
Winnick.
I literally wrote. I forgot Fish's name was Dylan, and I wrote Fish, and then you wrote on the thing next to it said first name Dylan. I was like, his name is Dylan. Like, I just thought it was Fish. Fish is Fish. Fish is Fish. Obviously, like
Fish.
obviously.
When your baby pops out and you're like, that's Fish.
I mean, Fish truly is Fish. Like, you look at him and you're like, that's
It makes
Fish.
sense.
That's not
It makes
Dylan.
sense.
That's Fish.
Yeah. Dylan looks like a Dylan too.
Yeah. He does.
Eric really looks like
Yeah.
Eric Eggroll.
I
Eggroll looks like
don't
Eggroll.
know if you
Yeah.
can say that one, Anders.
He named himself. Eric Meisner really looks like a Meisner.
That is true. I agree with that one.
Rest in peace, King.
Well,
And gone but not forgotten. Not at all. Okay, so we have Eric Winnick go home. We have now Sababa in a little bit more of a complex place. What do we think is going to happen next? The mutiny is up there. Sababa is not as unified as it once was. Dylan and Doug might have some beef. What do we think is going to happen next? Who's going to be targeted? Who's going to go home? Is the mutiny going to be used?
I think the mutiny.
I know. You guys tell me what you're thinking.
Yeah, Andrew.
What do you
just tell
think,
us.
Anders?
All right.
You
So
think,
next
Andrew.
episode.
I think the mutiny is definitely going to happen though. Like, I think
Yeah, like there's
the
no
people that have
way
it
Eric and
just-
Mike don't use it.
yeah, they would be stupid not to use it. So if they both jump ship to the other tribe, you have to wonder if in those 10 seconds anybody decides to jump ship back. Or if any of the creepy crawlers, I'm including Sam this time, decide to jump ship with them, which would also be a very dumb move. But also, like, do you want to stay all together as your own people? So I don't know. It's so interesting because I wonder if you just panic in that moment and are like, I don't fucking know. I guess I'll step forward. You know, like if you don't know it's coming, if you're on the other tribe, especially. So I don't know. It could.
Andrews,
Go
I have a question. Let's say like the tribe's like 8 and 5 or something. That's okay. Like as long as it's not like 2 people on a tribe.
Yeah. Why
That's
not?
fine. Just okay.
They
The
did it
tribe-
in
I
Cook
don't know.
Islands.
The tribe right now is 8 and 7. But it was 9 and 7. It could have been 9 and 5. Like, we're not gonna look
Yep.
up until the point where you can't have a tribal council because of it. It's not an issue. You know, if you want it to be 1,000 versus 2, I'm fine with that. Yeah, the only time it wouldn't work is if there's a tribe of 1.
I want to see 1,000-person tribal personally.
No, I do not. That would last
Yeah.
hours, days, probably.
And you know what?
Andrews will host it though. Andrews will
JS will still have an OTTN edit. Well, also, do we think that Fish or Michaela, having been on the minority of the vote, would jump ship if Mutiny was played next episode?
Ooh,
I don't think
Fish
Michaela
might.
will.
I could see Fish.
I think especially if Fish sees 2 other returnees coming his way, I think he's like, I'm fucking getting out of here.
Yeah.
And then he
a
jumps
good
ship
reason.
to the creepy crawlies and goes home right
And
away.
That gets out immediately.
Yeah.
Gets out
Yeah, I think
I
Fish
think-
is in a really, I
So-
think fish is in probably honestly one of the worst positions in the game because at least like Eric and Mike, they have that immunity, they have that thing to get them out of a bad position. Fish is stuck. So unless a swap really works out for him, which I can't see like with the swap format, the way that the swap is intended to happen this season, I can't imagine a swap going particularly great for Fish. I also can't imagine mutiny going particularly great for him because either he stays where he is in a bad position or he goes to the other tribe and also just ends up in a bad position. I don't want to say he's dead in the water, but I think he's got a lot to do and a lot of work that he's going to have to put in order to make it through the next couple rounds.
Fish dead in the water, eh?
That's what I had to say.
I have formulated a positive path for Fish in my mind, which is the mutiny is played. He jumps ship over to the Majesta side. Eggroll and Mike jump ship over to the Sababa side. That's all that happens at the mutiny. Sababa goes to tribal. Somebody goes home. Maybe Michaela at this point. I know, terrible, but somebody goes home over on Sababa. And then Fish gets good ins with everybody on Majesta with all of the creepy crawlies. And then they use the swap, and to keep all of McQuad together, they make one of them the captain and they make Fish the other captain. To make sure that they still all stay together and that Fish is the other captain and gets to draft his own tribe.
True.
I can see that.
Also, another positive path, possibly. So, the mutiny's played, and Fish goes over to the other side. He finds an idol, and then he uses the idol to take out JS. The next episode, JS and Sherry return as one combined player. Fish wins the immunity every round until the end.
Don't do Sherry that. Don't do that to Sherry.
Winnick, JS, and Sherry wear a trench coat. They're all one player now. They're the strongest, the loudest, and the queenest of all. They cannot be beaten. All right, so I think it's going to be very exciting to see what happens next. I say that knowing what's going to happen next. I think it's going to be very exciting. I don't know about you guys. I feel like this season's going to be really good. Who do we think is winning at this point? Erin, we know who you're thinking. And Andrew, he had a fine episode, okay?
Great episode. I loved Andrew this episode. He was great. He was like, Katie's valuable to me, and I think I'm valuable to Katie, which he clearly is because she's protecting him and making sure his name stays out of people's mouths. So yeah, still all in on Andrew. He's slaying. He's killing it. That's my queen. Feminist king.
Not a bro, wants to work with the women.
He is
not a man.
Yeah, he is the anti-me, and that's why I love him so much.
Let's also let's give a round of applause to a girls' alliance that did vote out a man. They may not have all voted together, but they only
they don't vote together.
That's so true.
They didn't all vote together.
They didn't, but notice that the first time even a woman's name was uttered in Katie, they all went, no. No. She'd never win again. You can't pick her. But Dylan and Doug, what about them? This is a good question, actually. Ty, what do you think of his gameplay? What do you think of JS's gameplay? And is he always this crazy? Be honest. At family dinner, is he clapping in your face?
You know what's crazy? Watching my brother from 7 years ago, which is a crazy statement to say, I forgot how annoying he was. Oh my god! Like I had to live with this guy. Like we grew up together, and like he was just like so loud and annoying in college. But I think his Survivor gameplay is good. Like he was always a huge reality TV show fan, and like he's just like painting a big shield on his back, and he's still sticking around. Like I think he's a fun enough guy. Like in those one-on-one combos, like we were talking at the beginning of the episode. But I think he'll like get to merge, but we'll see. We'll see if his target is too big at that point.
I noticed you say he was a lot.
Oh, he's definitely toned down for sure. He can still be a lot, but he's definitely toned down since college for sure. College is a time to experiment.
Experiment how annoying you can be.
Yeah.
Literally.
And hey, look, some people here are proof that that's true, Erin. Okay, so we know who Erin thinks should win, which is Andrew, because she's
Will
a
win.
feminist.
Thank you.
Roger, who do you think is going to win?
I personally am Team Miranda. I think she's in a really good spot in the McQuad alliance. I do think it's gonna be tough because like I think like Majesty's in a tough spot. Like I think no matter what, they're like
Majesta.
Majesta, whatever they're called. I think it's gonna be tough for them, but I really like Miranda, and I think she's doing a good job, kind of surrounding herself in this alliance and just letting JS kind of like do everything he's doing, and she's just kind of hiding behind him, and I really like her gameplay.
Do you have a returner? We gave 2 in the beginning. I'm just gonna ask: is there a returner you think would win, or is it you're just gonna stick with Miranda?
No, I'm Team Miranda. I feel like I don't see any of the like returnees winning.
Wow. Okay, big McQuad head over here. Ty, what about you?
I'm in with Roger. I really like McQuad. Obviously, I'm gonna root for my brother, so like I can't not say that.
God, I'm
but I
so
think-
glad this was a Sababa episode. Otherwise, I would not have been able to handle this panel.
But I think I really like Jack.
Oh,
I really
yeah.
And then from Sababa, I think Andrew's been doing a really good job. I know Erin already talked about him, so I won't steal Andrew. But I really like Jess too. I feel like Jess has her ins with the girls. She has her in with some of the returners. I think she's doing really well.
Oh,
I
we
think
haven't
she's, like,
even talked about the JS Jess fights again. It's still happening. Jess gets some good
She
licks.
said, "I thought you were going home." That was so
I
funny.
know you were voted out. Close one, huh?
I wish
And
I wish he brought another balloon. I wish he brought another balloon.
Oh my god, no. That
and
was
then-
so stupid.
as JS was walking away, you did such a good job. You're such a good contributor. Um, Also-
The challenge.
I don't know if everyone picked up on this. I thought it's very funny. At Tribal, they begin when Winnick says, "Should I pull out my balloon now?" And Fish says, "Tonight," like JS did. It's just like,
That was hilarious.
it's so funny. Madeline, what about you?
I mean, I have to be rooting for Jack, the only other female host of Survivor Maryland. I will always be her biggest fan. I think she's
Spoiler
incredible. I
alert.
think she's been playing super well, and I love that she's playing like under the radar right now because like I just think the type of player that she will be is going to be really cool, and I'm glad that she's not someone who's going to flame out early because I think with like especially you see a lot in Survivor Maryland specifically, but like young like freshman girls, we've seen them time and time again like flame out really really early, and I think it's exciting that the freshman woman on this tribe, and I think Miranda's also a freshman.
Mhm.
I think they're both doing super, super well, and it's really exciting to see them both do really well and see them both like play like very solid, like strong games. So I've been really rooting for the two of them. I really like Jess. I think she has been incredible. I think she's been such a fun character this season, and I really like that we are seeing her as a character not only in her confessionals, but also like in the way that she talks to other people. Where like some of the other people, we see them like you know that they're characters through the way that they're speaking to the camera, but the way that they're talking to other people, they're playing it down. Which like I think maybe you should be playing it down a little bit, but like I think Jess has been just so fun to watch. And then I actually am really liking who was it?
Michaela.
Obviously, yes. I love Michaela. I know who she is fully. Now, I'm also really liking Dylan. I didn't know who he was until last episode. But it's been fun to
Which Dylan?
the Dylan that goes by
Yeah,
Dylan.
winner fish. We know it.
Well,
Yes.
and you're talking about you freshman girls who flame out. If you haven't watched New Beginning, I mean, I'm just saying, Faith is a really good freshman girl in it.
Yeah.
Look,
Yeah.
Faith gets absolutely sniped in this season for good reason. She's
Yeah.
a very good player. But
Yep.
if you want to see her not get sniped immediately, she's great in New Beginnings. She's also
Amazing.
chaotic.
She's
Go
incredible.
check out that- go check
I
out
love
that
Faith.
season.
I was sad to see her go, but I also think that like people are going to come for me for this. I think it was her time, and that I think she was a really good player, and I think that she was always going to be a really big target. And I think that I'm excited to see other people step out of like what could have potentially been her shadow, and I'm excited to see like people like Jack and Miranda kind of step out of that instead of like working with her and like blindly following her to the end, because I think that's what probably could have happened.
It's
Had
me.
that, like,
I'm
alliance.
people that's gonna come for you for that.
I know.
So you didn't actually name a winner pick. You just named all the people you liked.
Jack. I like Jack. Jack's my winner pick.
Okay. Also, it's important to note the freshmen this season are Jack, Miranda, Fish, Winnick. Do you notice any difference maybe between the freshmen? I don't think all freshmen are created equal in Survivor.
I think they're all playing the same games. I don't know what you're talking
Oh,
about.
sorry, Sam. Sam is also another freshman.
Ah, best
Mm.
one out of all of them. Can't believe she didn't come up in the winner pick conversation.
Look,
None of us
quieter.
talked about returning.
It's a quieter episode for her for sure. But Sam's gonna come back with a vengeance. Listen,
Yeah,
Sam's
she's in her Michaela era right now, and she's about to be back in her Sam era.
And I'm so glad we all got to see Michaela. People said when we see Michaela, she's going home, but she didn't. And we saw she probably got some of the most content in this episode. Not the most, but
yeah, for sure.
But congratulations, more Michaela moments to come. Are there any other moments in this episode that you want to talk about that we haven't?
Oh, let me look.
In your 2 pages of notes.
I thought it was super funny in the car in the Girls Alliance. Katie Ann was like muting the phone for I forget who it was, and I was like, Katie's done this before. She knows what's going on.
Oh, for Michaela to exit.
Yeah, I was like, wow, that's like you wouldn't think of that in the moment, but Katie just like she's Katie, so she knows.
That and the Fish moment earlier, where Fish texts all 4 of them the exact same message.
Oh, that was. I wanted to talk about that.
I haven't gotten it yet.
That was so funny. No, that was yeah.
Look, you got to be efficient. Sometimes you're like, I have an opening for 11 a.m. Which one of you 4 can do it? And then Jess goes, you could all do it.
Yeah, it was the fact that it was the same time. Not even like trying to spread it out. Just like 11 o'clock. Only time he's available.
It'd be like that.
I had a Swale sighting during the challenge, so that made me happy. I was like, let's go Swale.
He was there.
Love that. So shout out to Swale. I think that covers it, honestly. Yeah, other than
you have 2 pages of notes, and the one note you're gonna point out is Swale sighting.
Well, we talked about most of the rest of it. Sorry that I know what we're gonna talk about on here.
Oh, you got me. We're gonna talk about the episode.
Crazy. Yeah, no. The only other thing I had.
I just want to talk about Winnick. Can we have like a separate Winnick like?
Yeah, all of your notes on Winnick, Roger.
Yeah,
with just Winnick.
I just wrote Winnick, but that's beside the point.
Yeah, catch us all on the Survivor Maryland Winnick Take All episode 5 live. So it's just talking about Winnick. Here's a good question.
That's what we should have titled the episode.
Who do you think is playing better, Jess or Andrew?
Ooh. That's a good question.
I think we know my answer.
Jess, yeah.
I think it's a Andrew, but like it's not like as clear cut as.
Well, I think so. They also added it's like because they both flipped. Who do you think is better positioned from that flip?
Jess.
I don't know if flip is the right word.
I think Andrew because he's closer tied to Katie, whereas Jess's like closest tie in that group outside of like the Girls Alliance is Doug, who is in more trouble. So it's like, okay, Doug goes out, and then everybody's like, oh, Jess, you have this legacy advantage, so that's interesting. And like once Doug goes, they're gonna need to be looking elsewhere for a target. So I think that Andrew is like not on anybody's hit list for a while, whereas Jess might be, especially now with the legacy. Exactly,
yeah.
Eric. Exactly.
That's the real question. Which one of Katie's pod does play better? But I think Jess is just more like in that Girls Alliance and it's like in a bigger group of numbers. So I think that helps her out.
Andrew said he's down to work with the Girls Alliance too.
I agree, but like I think Andrew has Andrew has KDN, but I don't know how much he has the rest of the girls in the alliance. Where I think Jess, like, if it comes down to it, I think at least Michaela and Morgan would probably pick her over Andrew, at least from like what we've seen.
Andrew does seem to have a really good relationship with Michaela, though, too.
That's true. I don't know. I think like,
and even like Michaela's one confessional a couple episodes ago was like about a meeting with Andrew.
That's okay. Before this episode, I thought her name was Mackenzie. So like,
wait. Okay, I know that someone claimed Michaela has only had one confessional. She's actually had two. She had one in the first episode where she was like,
"Oh yes.
I'm gonna vote. I'm gonna vote Sabrina." And then in episode 2 was I like Andrew. So she's actually had two confessionals for this.
You're right. My bad.
UTR where?
Sorry, I only pay attention to confessionals that talk about Andrew. So.
Yeah, no one has really had any confessionals this season except for Katie, Tony, and now Michaela.
That's it.
All right. Any other moments we want to talk about? All right, let's do some plug-in. We're in a boat that's sinking. Time to plug. Madeline, anything to plug?
Nope. Keep watching Survivor Maryland. We're gonna start casting for season 23 in a couple weeks, so that's really exciting.
Yeah, if you go to the University of Maryland and you want to learn about Survivor Maryland, you can do it. There will be applications. You have to go to the school though. So
Yeah.
It's true.
That's a
we
caveat.
have sorry, Ty. I'm gonna ask if there's something you want to plug, but there's also another question incoming.
I don't have anything to plug. We're working on season 22 right now. Season 21 and 22 are me and Madeline seasons. They'll come out at some point, and I'll plug those then.
I'm gonna say this now for posterity. These two have been like, when's the season coming out? And they think it's gonna be so easy to edit their little season.
Oh no,
I'm telling you.
We do not
I'm
think it's gonna
telling
be
you.
easy.
I know that you two are thinking it's so easy. It's not. The next
I
one's
never
gonna
said
take it
that.
10 years to come out. Roger, anything you want to plug?
I mean, I'm sure Erin did while the season was airing, but season 6 of Survivor Michigan just finished. It's a great
Didn't
season.
watch.
Check it out. And didn't watch? Okay, so fair. But and season 7 might be on the horizon at some point, so check that out soon.
Pumping them out. Jeez. I just got angry. I just got over my anger for season 6. You want me to get furious about season 7 already?
Yeah. COVID
Aaron-
season, baby.
Yeah.
Finally! I hope it's more conversations that are like this. So what do you think we're gonna do? I joke. Erin?
I mean, yeah, watch Survivor Michigan, both Gen 1 and 2 channels. Go ahead and go back and rewatch those. And I'll also plug another College Survivor airing right now, just like I did last week. Scotty Survivor is currently airing. They've got a little pirate theme going on, so I'll shout that out for my good friend Shane Killen. And Govind, he's great too.
We have one final question before I plug what I'm gonna plug. So this question was basically, Katie's powerful, right? We understand that she's great. If you were playing, would you play with, against, around? How would you do it?
So I feel the
I
way
would just-
about Katie on as I do about Suri, which is if I ever found myself in a game with her, I'm simply handing her $1 million because she
sometimes-
deserves it.
Sometimes you're at the Sasha Colby meet and greet, and you just have to accept you're not winning.
Yeah.
Sorry, for some of you who don't know, sometimes when you're in a competition with someone who is far above you, you just accept that you're going to lose.
Yeah. I think
That's what I
especially
would do.
yeah, real answer, I think thank you, Eric. But no, especially early on, you work with Katie for sure because you know she's building those inroads. You know she's a good player. You want to get on her good side because you know, like, yes, she's threatening, but she's not going anywhere anytime soon. So get on her good side and then still build your other relationships on the side to make sure that you can get her out before she beats you at the end.
Yeah.
That's how you handle that's how you handle playing with Katie.
Yep.
Anyone else
I'll
have
say I
different
think-
opinions?
I guess my only thing is like I think it depends on the context of your tribe and if you're a newbie or a returnee. Specifically, like if you're a newbie on Majesta, I think like if let's say Katie's on that tribe in replacement of like someone, I don't know who. And since it's a very like returnee.
You're
versus
Winnick. What do you
newbie,
do?
I'm like I think that's a tougher spot because it seems very
You're too
difficult
strong.
to have.
Yeah, you're simply a strong player and you make the merge. That's what you do if
Right.
you're winning.
It's difficult to build those inroads with the returnees when every single person is like, we have to get a returnee out. So I think in that case, it's like you can kind of do what Jack and Egg Roll are doing, where they do have this relationship, but like they just like aren't voting on the same side. I think that's probably the most you can do. But if you're in a
And
spot like
Sam and Egg
Andrew,
Roll.
that's true. Oh,
My
I'm not
favorite
gonna lie.
duo.
Like 5 minutes ago when you guys said Sam's name, I completely forgot who Sam was, and it took me like
Put him down.
five.
Put him down.
That's okay. I don't care. I literally did not remember who I was like. I thought she was on Sababa for a second. Then I was like, oh, that's who it was.
How can you forget?
I would-
Okay, Sam's not the loudest, but you forget about her?
Insane.
I-
Terrible.
That's really-
Andrew,
Unforgivable.
crazy.
Andrews, I forget about.
I'm
literally-
muting you. I don't want to hear it.
Whatever.
Ty, yes.
Yeah, for Katie, I think day one she's the biggest threat, like 100%, biggest target, biggest threat. And as someone trying to build your resume, like you don't build your resume with like big moves and stuff until you get to merge. So I think you just work with her, try to build relationships with her, and then try to take a shot, but you better not miss because she'll come back.
To quote the philosopher Bowie Jane, I don't need to build a resume. By the time I get to the end, I'll already have one.
The greatest
Madeline?
Big Brother player ever, Bowie Jane.
What?
How do you work with
Oh,
Katie?
I don't know. I think it's complicated. I don't think my strategy would necessarily be as clear cut as what people have said. I think that I would definitely try to work with her early on, but if I see an opportunity to take her out pre-merge, this is me being like a very reactionary like player. I think that I would try to take her out as early as I could if there was a very clear way of doing it, which I think on this tribe with this dynamic, there was not going to be a position where she was going to be, an easy vote by any means. She was always going to have people fighting for her. But I think if there is that path where it's like, I feel confident I could get these 4 people to vote out Katie, I don't think it would be a shot that I would stray away from just out of fear of knowing how good of a player she could be later on. But I think in this situation, if I am replacing someone on this tribe, knowing like the way dynamics are playing out so far this season, I think I would do it what everyone else is saying to do and work with her, build a relationship, and then try to cut her at like final 7, final 6, and hope that you have the relationships elsewhere that could take you to the end. And hope and know that like at that point, the shot's not gonna miss. But like I think that there's merit to trying to take her out a little bit earlier and trying to make that move earlier because by final 7, that's a move that everyone's going to want to have on their resume. If you can say, I took that move at final 13, at final 12, I'm the only one at this point who can claim it. I think that's something to be said in the end for sure because she's going to be a player who you always want her head on that platter. Like whether you're working with her or against her, you want to be the one to say like I took her out because that's a big move no matter when it happens.
I personally wouldn't take out Katie. I know Katie well enough that if I ever played with her, I know I'd want to at some point, but I'd be like, Katie is too good of a player. You work with her, and like there will come a time where people will want to go against her, and maybe you do it, maybe you don't. At the end of the day, I am not cutting Katie in this game. She's incredible. Not only is she fun, but also like what kind of hell dimension, hell world do you want to live in? Where you're taking out Katie early in this game? What? You
Yep.
really want Katie out? You're that obsessed with a bad season? Okay, go off.
Okay, Meisner.
Okay, Meisner. All right, this is a great question. So the episode title for this, as we all know, is "Lost Enough Dignity," which of course was said by a resident eater of all things. Look, if you can eat it, why not? Mr. Eric Eggroll. The other episode titles for this was "Nothing Was Below Them" by Morgan, talking about how they're just as a bunch of cheap strippers.
And STDs.
That
was a crazy clip.
This isn't the game for scared people, which is Winnick talking about time to make a move, which I agree. Take That, Mom and Dad,
That's
said by
great.
Jack about
that would have been
being able to eat
good.
bugs. Circular bullshittery, which is Dylan talking about how is logic for the texting. The Worst Kid, which is Katie talking about Dylan. And then The Wheel Spins, which I'll be honest, no fucking idea where that one was. It's talking about probably the vote keep changing, but I can't remember where that one. I didn't pick it, so it doesn't matter. All right, for my plugs. Hey, watch Survivor Maryland. If you haven't watched the first 4 episodes, you better watch them now, or you'll be really confused about what the fuck we were talking about for an hour and a half. Catch us next week for episode 6, where things might get a little bit crazier. Maybe more Michaela content, maybe more Sam content, maybe an alliance between the two of them. Anything is possible.
I would die. Too much queenery.
Too much.
More Sam stairwell conversation.
More
Yes,
Sam
please.
stairwells. And you saw in the next time there will be a Sam stairwell conversation. Hey, look, this is a real quick thing. If you've ever wanted to play an online Survivor game, there's a pretty cool one looking for people right now. It's called Endure. So if you really want to be like, I think I could play a game as good as JS or as good as Sam or maybe even as good as Michaela, head on over to the Survivor Maryland Discord where I'm going to put the application. You can apply. No guarantee about you getting in, but I was told to plug it, so here I am. Anyways, thank you all so much, and we'll see you next week for more queenery and more hatery of JS, specifically by Erin. Goodbye! Goodbye!